So you wrote a book,
Yes.
Morgan, My Love. And how did you get the idea for this book?
Let me say it in a different way. How did the idea get me? I had an idea to write a novel about the possibility that a soul and a body are different entities.
Mm-hmm.
So I would like to play in a philosophical way what happens, what does it say about life when we are just a soul and a body? What does it say about love, or what does it say about who we are? And I did some investigations, which means I read books about it, and then somebody says to me, well, you should really investigate by experience.
Who said that to you?
Well, that's my wife,
Oh.
Ariane. She told me, maybe you should do something like a regression therapy or so.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, come on, regression therapy. let's be serious, you know. But I was, in a way, I was also very curious about it. About, what will there be on my hard disk then? But I approached this from a rational way. So I found a regression therapist, Ilya. I found her because there was an interview written with her in a magazine, and I saw a picture that, oh, she looks great. So she doesn't seem to me a person who is really from, well, Guna or
Floating somewhere.
Yeah, I think she was very down to earth.
Mm-hmm.
And that convinced me to call her and to make an appointment, and I had an appointment with her. And the first appointment I was only checking my questions.
Mm-hmm.
How do you know this? Are you certain? What's the science behind this? And after 3 hours she said, oh, well, you spent all the time I had for you. You should come back next week and then shut up and go on the couch and you will have your own experience.
Exactly.
And I had really no idea what to expect because I thought, well, a regression, oh, that takes an hour, wow, maybe 1 hour and a half, and then I go on with my day. But that turned out a little bit different, and that was the moment the idea of the book caught me.
So what happened in that session?
Well, Ilya, she was looking for a kind of entrance to my subconscious. And there was a moment in my life when I was surprised by fear. I worked for television and we had a great raid, so my chief said we go out for a weekend of having fun and drinking booze and for skydiving. Mm-hmm. And I was, in a way, really looking forward to it because, well, I'm a thrill seeker, and especially on that age. So
how old were you then?
26. So but I was caught by surprise, by fear. Then we were in the dressing room, well, packing our parachute gear, and then I froze. I was completely overwhelmed by panic, and there was a voice in me that said, "If you're going for a jump, you will die." And I what? But okay, I found my escape. I said, I'm not going to jump. I take some flying lessons, and nobody noticed. But in this regression, or before it, Ilya was pushing me back to that experience.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And my skepsis was very strong. I said, "Oh my God, what am I doing here?" And I got those. I call this the Muppet grannies, Waldorf and Statler, in my mind, who are always spoiling everything or criticizing everything. But they silenced after a couple of minutes, and then I got an experience, and I say because my perspective was from my own view. I was hanging on a parachute, wearing a uniform, and there was an instant knowing in my body, oh my God, this is September 1944, Market Garden, Gingle Heath. And the strange thing was that it was not kind of memory, but not kind of a memory of my mind. It was a memory of my body.
Yes, exactly.
So my fear was there, my adrenaline was there.
The rush.
The rush was there, yeah. And it was not like a beautiful movie. It were flashes, rushes. But I was so scared. So. And that was just the beginning of the regression. And I wasn't prepared for an experience like this.
Mm-hmm. So you, I think she led you through death.
You can say, because I went through the whole experience of 1944 again, and also I experienced my own death, and that was very heavy, but also a kind of relief because fear stopped.
Yeah.
So I was experienced the fear, and I was thinking, oh, as long as I feel the fear, I'm alive. So I love fear, but I hate fear. So it was, you know what I mean? It was mixed.
It's exactly that.
Exactly, yeah. And then this bullets came, and I was laying on the couch, and my body was shaking, and I was crying, but I was really upset about the authorities who just, well, they screwed us with this idiot war and things. But the strongest feeling that came free was sorrow. There was like a bomb of sorrow that exploded in.
About your own life, or about loved ones?
The last, not my own life. No, my own life was done. That was the freedom of the relief of, I don't feel fear anymore. But at the same time, the sorrow was about, I couldn't tell the people I love them, and that was something that turned to be a very strong drive to write this novel, but more to do the investigations. Because when Ilya, she asked me at that moment, after I died, go back to your youth and describe, go back to your youth. Okay, I'll go back to my youth. No.
The youth of the past life.
Yeah, the youth.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what do you see, and who are you then? And I described a house, a little white house with a shed, and there was something about the bike. There was something with the bike. And then Ilya asked, what's your name there? And then I became a little bit pissed because how do I know what my name is there? And, what a terrible question. Let's stop with this. But then she asked me a very intelligent question. If you knew, what would have been your name then? And then I was still quiet for a time, and then from some depth of my mind or soul came a name, and that was Morgan. I said, my name is Morgan. And that was a name I never use. If I said Harry or Johnny or Philip or Billy, I was doing something different now.
Morgan. And Morgan can be a first name or a last name.
Yeah, but I was sure it was a first name. And after this regression, which took more than 3 hours, I went home. I don't know how I get there, but I got home. And after a while, I could only cry, and was very, very emotional. But after a while, my ratio was there again, and then I started my investigation. I said, "This is ridiculous. This is a fantasy." So I started looking on the internet to find things that prove that it was all.
That it proved you wrong.
Yeah, this was a rubbish. But I found a name. There was only one paratrooper with the name Morgan.
Aged 26 when he died.
26 when he died, and he came from Wales, from a little village, Pontardawe, which was pretty close to the sea, like I described in the regression. And I was curious. I found all the people in that area with the same name, the Probert, his second name, with the intention, can I call them and say what I experienced? No, this is ridiculous. I didn't call them, and because I thought, hey, there is something with the date, because in this regression I was very sure I only experienced only one night. We were dropped one night, and he died. And I found out this Morgan died on September 19th. And I knew from the school books that Market Garden, the operation, started the 17th. So it were 2 nights. So I said, I'm free. I'm
It's
just
not true.
That's not
Yeah.
true. I'm Bas again. Fuck it. But then I saw he was a member of the 10th Battalion, which were dropped on Monday 18th. And there's the one night. So there was a name. And there was
Chills, goosebumps.
goosebumps, emotions, and there was a date. And then we went to Wales because, well, I was curious, but still trying to prove it was all not true.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's the best way to investigate, by the way.
yeah,
But go on.
I had no choice because my emotions were pretty clear,
Mm-hmm.
but my head said, "Oh no, can't be." So we went to Wales, and we met someone in the village who knew Morgan, who turned out to be his former neighbor. And
By coincidence.
yeah, everything is by coincidence.
Of course.
It's he drew on a paper where we could find his house, which was still there, and he said Morgan's sister is still alive, and that's what I said. Not going there. She's called Glenys, and she still lived in that village. But I said no, not going there. What should I say? Looking great for my age, or what do you say?
Hey, I'm your brother.
I'm your brother.
Remember
No.
me?
Oh my God, I don't. I even was. I was still doubting.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I still am someday. I still doubt. But the next day, with the drawing of the house, we went to the street where the house is, and as soon as we entered the street, my body started to talk. Goosebumps, tears, and I saw the house. I said, "This is the house I saw in the regression." Different because, well, some changes, but it was the house. So we drove home, and I wrote a letter to the sister with some questions in it, because I didn't know how she would react when somebody asks about her brother.
Mm-hmm. So you wrote a letter instead of contacting her in person.
Yeah, a letter was more safe. So I wrote, and she was very glad with the letter because she never talked about her brother since the war. It was blocked. It was a trauma. Go on, don't look back. That was the mentality. And because of my letter, her daughters start to ask about her brother. Yeah. And she was 85 then, and she's never been here. She never visited the grave of Morgan. And then there came a letter from a guy from the Netherlands, and want to ask things about the brother. And my cover-up was I was a journalist and just writing about unknown soldiers.
Just one of them.
One of them, yeah.
You picked this one.
Yeah, I picked this one. And she wrote a letter back, and she answered about on one of my questions. I asked her about the bike, because I saw there was something with the bike in the regression. I saw something like that, and my most skeptical friends said to me, "Well, if there is something from Morgan in you, there should also be something of his passion in you." Mm-hmm. So I asked about the bike, and I get the letter from Glenys with a picture of his cycling group.
Cycling group. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they were well dressed, but Glenys said to me later, Morgan was mad about the bike. He was a poor steel guy, but in his spare time he delivered groceries to get a racing bike. So he had a racing bike, he had racing gear, and every weekend he went with his friends for a tour, and they had some competition together.
And what does it have to do with you then?
Well, I'm a race cyclist as long as I can stand on my legs, you know. Since the day I had a bike when I was 3 or 4, I'm changed the position of the handlebar to be a race cyclist, and I've been a race cyclist for years in competition. Mm-hmm. It's my greatest passion.
So you have the same passion.
We shared our passions, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that was for me almost game, set, and match.
Mm-hmm.
The name, the date, the house, the bike.
And your mother came with a box of drawings that you made when you were a little child.
Yeah, because I was still thinking, oh, maybe Ilya pulled me a leg with this regression. She just opened my firewall,
Mm-hmm.
and there's some side story which entered my mind and just, well, you know.
Right, that's
I
what
was still
regression-
looking for an escape, you mean? You got it? And then my mother showed up with the box of all things from the past, from kindergarten and everything. And there were some pictures inside, or drawings, which I drew when I was 5 or 6 or 4. And you see planes, parachute, dead soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
So,
A little boy with a trauma.
yeah,
Unfinished business.
unfinished business, yeah. So that, so the story caught me.
Mm-hmm.
I was no longer in charge. I had to do something with this experience.
And you went back to the little white house, did you?
Yes, yes. Glennis came here. I invited her to come over, and I said, "Come in September. Then you have this commemorations, and there are flowers and veterans." But she said, "I can't make it that day. I will come on Monday, 18th." Okay.
18th.
And we will see each other on the 19th. And I said, "Do you know what date that is?" They had no clue. So she came here, and
Because the 19th of September.
was the day Morgan died.
Exactly.
And we met at the Ginkgo Heath, and there was, well, a coach car with 70 grey women and men. But I knew exactly which was Glennis, and she walked straight into me and said, "You are the reason I'm here." But she didn't know yet what I would like to tell her if I had the guts. And I had the guts. I told her what I told you. And she left this travel group and joined me to this place, and we stand together at Morgan's grave, and she breaks into tears, and I'm holding her standing on this grave. So what's happening there? And then she invited me come over to Wales, and
But her daughter told you something about how shy she normally
yeah,
is.
she's very closed
Mm-hmm.
to strange people.
Yeah.
But she said to me, "You never felt like a stranger." We were so familiar from the first moment we saw each other. We were touching each other when we walk. We make fun. It was going too easy for a stranger.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever's happened between the last couple of years, between the, I believe in you. I knew you. Did you have that? Do you understand that experience?
You knew that we knew you. You knew each other.
I came on. You came on to me. I wasn't meeting a stranger.
No. It's hard to explain everything.
Oh, good, yes. With living memory, Erkovo.
As well.
Yeah.
When she invited us to come to Wales, I visited the White House, and I said, "Well, things are changed, of course," but I was trying to describe what I saw have seen in the regression, and I remember things about the stairs. I said, "Well, I think the door was here, the stairs. No, the stairs should be there," which was correct. Behind the wall, there are still the old stairs. And I said, "There's something about the front door." That wasn't the front door I remember, I can recall. It should be a closed plain wooden door without a window. And they were saying, no, Grandma always had this door in her house. I said, "Oh, maybe I'm wrong." And then Glennis said, "Well, no. Till 1942, or till the war, we had this plain wooden door." So I remembered the house, of course, from longer ago. So my mind is trying to find escape, but can't
again
find.
or still?
No, not anymore. Now it's part of my life, and I accept the possibility that a part of me or I was Morgan. And sometimes I forget, and then I start to doubt again. Well, maybe there are other possibilities, but then something happens, like seeing a Canadian flag in the landscape for a little remembrance from soldiers who died there, and then bam, or somebody asks me a question, and I suddenly break into tears, and I can't.
I just remember when you had a reading about the book, and a woman came to you, or a couple, and they had one of those wings. The wings.
Yeah, a woman.
A woman.
Yeah, it was one of my first readings, lectures here in Oosterbeek.
Lectures.
And
So
even it was before the lecture. She came into I think she read the book, and she came to me and said, "This belongs to you." Wow! And then she gave me the wings her father found here after the war.
the wings that they were on the Barrett.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I keep it like a treasure. But the strange thing is, I wrote a novel because I don't want to write only about, well, look at what happened to me. I want to put it in a bigger perspective. So I wrote a love story, and when the book came out, I wasn't prepared on that people really would read it and say something about it. But it is published in 2018, and so almost 3.5 years. And I've had any skeptic reaction at all. None, even from my most, well, down-to-earth friends. That's also maybe because the way I wrote it, I put all the skepticism in the book with a lot of humor, but also after an interview like this, or I've been on the radio speaking about this, people were, how do you say it, caught by the story, but nobody was skeptic and said, "Well, now you have to go to the lunatic asylum" or so.
Well, it is the wet dream of every regression therapist.
The wet dream.
To have a client like this. To have a client who can really confirm the past life that came up.
Yeah, well, yeah.
It doesn't happen so often.
Oh, yeah.
So it's really special.
Yeah, it's special, but even outside this, the community of regression therapists.
Even there.
Even there.
They believed, they felt, it was heartfelt.
Yeah, I think so. They were caught by the love story, about the possibility that love is stronger than death.
Because you wrote about your search, and you also wrote their love story of Morgan and Patrice.
Yeah, yeah. Because that's what it's all about. You can make a romantic story of reincarnation. We can say, well, let's meet in another life, but then maybe you are very ugly then, or and I am blind, or I am born in France and you in Australia, in different moment of time. So it's nice for a romantic idea. So that's the thing I played with. I don't want to be romantic about the idea of reincarnation, because the sorrow is still there if you lose somebody. And in this book, I follow Morgan and Patrice in their youth, and the war came in between their love, and he died, and she is in a way still longing for him all her life, and she's now very old, and now she's longing to die because she believes he will be there in heaven. But in the meantime, there is a younger guy from the Netherlands on his way to her.
And her mind is lingering between there and here.
Yeah, yeah. She's old, and she's dreaming of him. She sees him. She's going back to the days when their love started. Yeah. So it's. I think that's where the tears in the book are.
Yeah. They sure are. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is him. This is the picture Glennis sent me in the first letter. And this, well, it's a blow up because in real, this is a small picture taken just before he left to Arnhem.
Yeah. So show them, show them Morgan.
Wow, we don't look very similar. I think the similarity is in the inside.
Yes, that too. Yeah.
So I can explain now some of my pretty heavy reactions on, on things that happened in the world, or when they send soldiers to a war, or wow. So sometimes I can feel, okay, that's connected to that period. Yeah. Well, this is the book in Dutch, but I got also in English, and
Since a couple of months.
since a couple
you
of
have
months,
it, yes.
yeah. So
It's good. It had to be in English because his family has to read it.
yeah,
Has to be able to read it.
yeah. And I hope it will find its way in the world. Shall I read? Yeah?
Please.
The bus stop is on the other side of the village, in front of the post office, a 15-minute walk. They slowly descend the hill from the Probert's white cottage, past the gross hands, where people wave, and past the local shops, over the bridge spanning the Tower to Herbert Street. The shop windows are the town's eyes, following them across the square by the village hall, and past the cinema, where they had seen How Green Was My Valley, Gone with the Wind, and Casablanca, up to the Dilwyn Arms, at the crossroads with High Street. Morgan walks beside her, his right arm around her shoulders, the fingers of her right hand entwined with his. But how does she feel? Empty, shattered, like she's suffocating? What if the bus doesn't come? Or it arrives too late in Swansea and he misses the train? She's totally unprepared for the overwhelming confusion she feels. Don't go. He looks at her, their faces together. This is a must. I don't want to let down my brothers. Brothers. It's the first time she'd heard him use that word. Brothers. Men who were strangers just a few months ago. She rests her head against his chest and feels his hands around her. A sculpture of two lovers outside space and time. Resolutely, but with a loving tone, he says something about trust, that she should take care of his parents, that he will write her again soon. And then follows a sentence he must have read somewhere that has always stayed with her. Love's binding force shall not be severed by distance nor time. He runs his fingers through her hair. She feels his heart pounding. In her mind's eye, she sees him running after her on the beach at Wasili, feels him swooping her across the rink dance floor. She hears tools falling in the shed, the squeaking of the chair he's sitting in, his laughter. Of course he will come back. Montgomery is our best strategist. He won't take unnecessary risks. A few weeks, it's only a few weeks. You have everything? She asks. So, when I return, make sure your hair is done and you look at me the way you did last night. A smile with her serious gaze directly above. She sighs. Her body fills with dread again. The bus approaches with a threatening hum. Just go, she says, feeling his arms losing their grip, hearing him say her name. Beatrice, I will see you soon. The war is going to be over in no time. Yes. See you soon, she repeats, not knowing what else to say. The bus door opens. Her head is spinning. Morgan gets in, walks down the aisle and finds a spot by the window. It feels like a film, a play, his fingertips against the glass. She dramatically mirrors his gesture. They look at each other, but the reflection of the glass obscures his face. The bus begins to move. She runs alongside, a few paces, her fingertips reaching for his behind glass. She has to let go. She waves, powerless. He's off, her love, a shadow in a teetering bus. There are more than 1,700 soldiers, but this is the grave of Morgan. So I can put the picture
Of course.
there.
I'll put the books here. Though far away, across the foam,
Your memory lives in our hearts at home.
it's weird to see your own grave.
Yeah, you could say so. Yeah, every time it's weird too, because you try to understand what's maybe not meant to be understood.